everyone, welcome back to White Sparrow Living, Luke 12:6. I'm Wendy and I'm so happy you're here. If this is your first time stopping by, welcome, and I hope you'll consider hitting that subscribe button down below as well as the little bell right next to it so that you can be notified every time I upload a brand new video. If you like these projects, don't forget to give them a thumbs up, comment, let me know what you think. I did want to take a minute to say thank you so much for hitting 100,000 subscribers. I couldn't have done it without you, and since this is a video celebrating love, I want you to know how much I love you. And now, without further ado, let's get started. For our first project, I'm going to be using a roll of banner art paper that you can find in the school section, some jute twine, and then I'll be using my Silhouette Cameo 3. Now when I opened my banner paper, it came out all crinkly and something was wrong with it, so I had to use some gift wrap that I happen to have, also from Dollar Tree, to cover up all those wrinkles, but you'll see that in a little while. So the first thing I did was design my decal in my Silhouette Studio, and then using my Frisco Craft adhesive vinyl in matte black, I'm gonna cut those words out, and I'm using the scripture 1 John 4:19, which says we love because he first loved us. Now because my sign is going to be so long, I had to do this in 2 separate pieces and then put them together. You could do this without a mat at all if you have an area longer than 24 inches, but I'm using my 24-inch mat. So after I cut those, I'm just going to piece them together and it'll look like one long sign. So now I'm going to weed my decals, and I don't know what it is about the weeding process, but I love watching people do that. So if you don't like this part, go ahead and skip forward, but something about it is so relaxing. It might have something to do with the fact that it's kind of like starting with nothing, and then once it gets icky and you're cleaning it up, it becomes something beautiful. I don't know if it's the instant gratification or what, but I just love the weeding process. So after I get all of my vinyl up, then I'm going to go in between all of my letters and take the insides out. And then I'm going to put my Frisco Craft transfer tape on top of my entire piece, and then I'll pull off the backing sheet by turning it over and then just rolling it back on top of itself, if that makes sense. And then I'm going to place that onto my paper, and Dollar Tree's gift wrapping paper is really super thin, so if you don't have a crinkled up roll of craft paper, you won't have to do this part. But I wanted to hide those lines, so that's why I ended up adding the gift wrap on top of my craft paper. And it did wrinkle a little bit, but that was okay. But just know it won't be as difficult if you do it onto the craft paper directly. Now I did another scroll like this in another video using the brown craft paper, and it's sturdy enough. The transfer tape doesn't stick or rip it or anything. Just be slow and careful and it'll come out perfectly. But I'll attach that video so you can see how it should usually work. And then at the top and bottom, I left a little bit of the paper rolled up, and so I'm going to use my hot glue to keep that in place and then just push it down from the back so that it's nice and snug and it won't come unrolled. Now gravity will keep it from rolling back up on you, but I wanted to make sure that the scripture was centered between the 2 rolls. So then I took this cabbage rose bush that I got from Walmart for $3.47, and I'm going to kind of deconstruct it and just attach it to the top left corner of my scroll. And as you can see, I also took some jute twine and I fed it through that top scroll part and then just tied it together. Later on I'm going to add some beads, but I don't end up showing you that on camera because I forgot to push record. So I'm just going to attach these and get them all nice and secure, and then they'll be ready to go. And here it is, all finished, and I absolutely love how this turned out. I have to tell you, I almost scrapped this project because of the creases in the paper and the imperfections of it. But even with those, I think this is such a stunning piece, and of course I love the message, but I really just wanted to show you guys how beautiful this would turn out if you did have a good roll of craft paper. And it is front and center in my living room, and I am just embracing those imperfections. I love how this turned out, and I hope you guys like it too. So today I'm teaming up with my sweet friend Sammy over at Unicorn Dust Designs, and I will have her video and her channel linked in my description box below. This girl is so super talented. She has some amazing Dollar Tree DIYs, some dupes, hauls, everything Farmhouse. And her signs, oh my goodness, they are so good. So after you're done here, go check out her video where you'll see these amazing creations. Let her know I sent you and give her some love. For our next Dollar Tree DIY, I'm going to be using this tinsel heart form, some styrofoam love picks, and then some boxwood greenery that I get from Walmart for 97 cents each. So the first thing I'm going to do is deconstruct this heart by unwrapping all of the tinsel and getting it off of there. And the arrow is attached using these little clips on the form itself. So you're just going to pull that right off and set it aside because I'm going to be painting that and working on that a little bit later. Now I'm going to take my boxwood greenery, and using my wire cutters, I'm just going to cut apart all of those stems, and then starting at the bottom of the heart, I'm going to attach those to my plastic form using some paddle wire, and I'm going to overlap them so that you can't see the bottom stem of each of those pieces. And I'll just attach it wherever I think I need to do it, and then if I see any of my plastic form, I'm going to cover that up with more boxwood. And both sides are going to have the stems going upwards, so none of the pieces will be upside down. So now I'm going to take my arrow, and using my Cricut spatula, I'm just going to pull off all of that glitter and the glue. And again, this was so much fun, probably because of going through the ickies to get to the pretties. Something about that just floats my boat. So now I'm going to take my Waverly chalk paint in Ballet Slipper, and I'm going to paint the top and back a little bit of my arrow and just give that a nice coverage so that it's nice and solid. And then I'm going to take my love letters, not my love letters, but you know, the letters that spell out love, I'm going to paint those in my Waverly chalk paint in crimson. And I leave them on the stick so that it's easier to paint. And then once my arrow's dry, I'm going to take my sanding sponge and I'm going to distress the edges and let that gray that was underneath show through. And then for the little teeny areas, I'm using this adorable emery board that my sweet friend Bren sent me as a perky prize, along with a whole bunch of other stuff. It's so cute, I didn't even want to use it, but I just got that all distressed inside there as well. And then I'm going to take some paddle wire and attach it to the spaces where it was originally attached to the wreath form. But because we have our greenery on there now, it's a little too bushy to get it attached to those original clips. So now I'm going to take some Dollar Tree flowers in pinks and reds, and just using my hot glue, I'm going to attach those over to the right of my heart at the top. And then I do go back in with some Walmart hydrangeas in red that are from Christmas time. And so I'm just going to disperse those throughout those flowers and just make it a nice cluster of pretty goodness. Now I'm going to take my styrofoam letters and I'll attach those to my arrow kind of tilted so that they show going up and down, just to add some extra cuteness. And then I decided that my flowers needed a little bit of white in there, so I'm going to add some baby's breath and then one little styrofoam heart at the end. So now I'm going to take some buffalo check ribbon, and I'm using the fold over method, and I just roll it over on top of itself, and I did 3 loops on each side, and then I'm going to fold it in half to find the center and make tiny little slits to put my chenille stem through, and then I'll twist that in the back. And originally I wasn't going to add tails to this, so otherwise I would have done that method where you loop it all the way down and then just cut it in half. So I did end up adding those afterwards, and then I'm going to dovetail my edges and it'll be done. And here it is all finished, and I absolutely love pink and red together, and then you throw in some buffalo check and I am done. I think this would be super adorable on your front door or on a farmhouse window or the wall. I did not mean to say that. Anyway, I love how this turned out, and I hope you guys like it too. For our next DIY, we're going to be using 3 glass containers with lids, some pink and white sand, some Valentine's Day bath bombs, some striped ribbon, and either plastic eyeballs or some ping pong balls. So as always, I'm going to start with the painting, and you probably didn't even see that these had lids, but they're acrylic, and I thought that was so cute. Anytime I find anything with lids at the Dollar Tree, that's always a score. So I'm going to take my Waverly chalk paint in white, and I'm going to paint those. And then I'm going to take my sand, and I'm using the white one first, and I just cut a little slit in the corner so that it can pour just a little bit at a time. But I'll do 1 layer of the white, and then I'll do a layer of the pink, and then on top of that I'll do another layer of the white. After I got done with this project, I was thinking how cute it would be if you took a skewer and just kind of made a line going diagonally so that it looked like zebra stripes. I thought that would be cute. So now I'm going to take my bath bombs, and you want to unwrap these really carefully because they could chip or crack or break off. But when you do unwrap them, oh, it smells so good. Anyway, now I'm going to take my E6000 for a permanent hold, and then I'll take my hot glue gun and place glue around that E6000 so that it doesn't mix, and that's for the immediate hold. And I'm going to put my ping pong balls on top of that and make sure that none of that glue seeps out. The reason I changed from the eyeballs to the ping pong balls was that they were a little bit bigger, and I thought they were more whimsical and fun and super cutie patootie. So once I had my ping pong balls attached to the tops of my lids, I'm going to go back in and paint those so that it's not a plasticky look and doesn't look like ping pong balls, but look like handles instead. And then once those are attached, I learned this the hard way. Make sure that you screw your lids on and get them to where the front is before you do any embellishing. That way, every time you screw it on, that embellishment will be in the front. So then I just made a sweet little bow for each of my jars using that super cute striped ribbon, and then I'm going to cut the ends at an angle and then attach those to the top using my hot glue. And here they are all finished, and I think these are so adorable. They're simple and sweet and will go in any nook and cranny to get some more Valentine's Day in there. And after Valentine's Day, you can use these in the bath. But I love how these turned out, and I hope you guys like them too. For our next DIY, I'm going to be using 2 plastic house piggy banks, a stem of white glittery hearts, a Valentine's Day gift bag, some craft sticks, and one of those long box signs. So the first thing I did was pulled off the back panel of these piggy banks, and I'm going to set those aside, and then using some acetone I'm going to get the writing off of the inside of the glass. They were a little hard to get the glass out because there was a lot of glue there, but I eventually did get it out so that I could paint the outside edges of the house. So everywhere where it's black, I'm going to paint that in white. I'm also going to be painting my sign, and this one's left over from Christmas time, but any of the signs that you find, you can use them throughout the year because you're just going to be painting them anyway. And then I'm going to take my gift bag and cut that apart, and then using those backboards, I'm going to trace out the shape and then cut them out. So now I'm going to attach my gift bag paper to the backboards, and I originally used some watery glue to do this. It ended up showing through that paper, so if you use glue, just do it in the corners, otherwise use double-sided tape, so I did have to redo that. So now I'm going to take my hot glue and glue down 2 hearts on one house, and that's going to represent Michael J. and myself, and then on the other one I'm going to glue down 3 hearts, which is going to represent our 3 children. I think you could probably fit 5 of these hearts in there, but if you have more than 5 kids, you might need smaller hearts or a bigger house. So now I'm going to replace the glass, and I just did a few dots of my hot glue, and these are plastic frames, so you're able to kind of pull it down and let it get behind those tabs that hold them in, but you do want to be careful with this so you don't break either the house or the glass or cut yourself. And then I'm going to replace the backboard and get that snapped into place. And then it's time to make our roof. So to do that, I'm going to take some craft sticks and cut off the rounded edges, and then I'm going to measure to see how long I need to make them. And I'll start at the very peak of the roof and then let that overhang just a little bit like a real roof does. And then on the other side of my house, I'm going to make those parts be exactly flush with the side of the house so that when I put my houses together, they won't have any overhang. That'll make sense in a second. So now I'm going to sand down those rough edges, and then I'm going to go back in with my Waverly wax in Antique, and I'll just brush that onto the roofs, and then using a paper towel, I'll get the excess wax off. So now I'm going to use my sanding block again to distress all of those edges, including all of the seams where I put the roof pieces together. So now I'm going to get my dimensions for the decal I'm going to make, and I'm measuring on the side of the top left house and then the size I need for my base. And so using my Silhouette Cameo 3, I'm using some red and white adhesive vinyl, and so I'm going to cut out the words "home is" in the white, and then "wherever I'm with you" is going to be in red. And I'll have all of the fonts that I used here and in any of my projects listed in the description box below, and they'll also be available in my Etsy shop, which is also linked in my description box below. Now you can use a paint pen to do this, and they have them in red and white, and I always get mine from Walmart, and they're a really good price. But if you are not comfortable with your own handwriting, you can definitely use the Dollar Tree rub-on letters, and they have some really cute fonts these days. And so that would be an alternative to the cutting machine. But also, I do have a hard time writing in paint pen on glass because it's so slippery. The good news is you can always erase it and start over until you get it right. So now I'm going to attach my houses to my base, again using my E6000 for the long-term permanent hold and my hot glue gun for the immediate hold. And so I'm just going to place those both together and in the middle, and then I'm leaving a little teeny lip on the front and the back so that it's nice and even. And here it is all finished, and I am so smitten with this. I love it, and I love the meaning with the family members all inside those little houses, because home is wherever I'm with you. So that's super cute. So again, I think this is so cutie patootie. I love how it turned out, and I hope you guys like it too. Now, if you're still watching this video, I consider you my loyal viewers who might be interested to know about this. I get a lot of people asking about how they can support this channel. And so I started what's called a Patreon account. Well, I didn't, because I had never even heard of this before. So my brother and sister-in-law made it for me. But you can actually become a White Sparrow Living patron by signing up at patreon.com, which I will have linked everywhere. But I wanted to make sure you also get some perky prizes for joining. So each package has different benefits associated with them, one of which is having complete access to all of my decal designs. So if you have a cutting machine, you can download any file you've seen me make on my channel for free. Plus, there's discounts for my Etsy shop, and I'm working on weekly inspiration texts and scriptures that I can send to you. So I'm really excited about that, and depending on how much interest we get, I have some bigger plans in the future to help those brothers and sisters that might be in need. So stay tuned for that. And now for our final DIY, I'm going to be using 4 of these large wooden Christmas tags, some leftover frosted Christmas greenery, and some roses in the prettiest shade of pink, and some pink and white gingham ribbon. And so the first thing I did was popped off that extra piece of wood on the front of the tag, and I'm using my Cricut spatula, and I'm going to get all of the paper off of there too, and then go back in with my sanding block to get that all off. This is going to be the back side of our sign, but I just want it to look nice and neat so that when you turn it around, it's not got Santa on there. And then I'm going to get rid of all of the tags and the ribbon holders, and then using my Waverly chalk paint in white, I'm going to paint all of my tags on the back and get that to a nice coverage, but I can still see just a hint of that brown showing through so that it looks really rustic. And then I'm going to go back in with my sanding block and distress all of the edges and really let that brown show through. So now I'm going to determine the placement of my tags, and I want them stacked on top of each other so that you can still see the majority of the tag once I place my words, but I also want to make sure that my greenery and everything is just in the right spot. So once I figure it out, I'm going to trace around it so I know where they go, and then I'll add my E6000 and my hot glue to keep those in place. So now I'm going to take my gingham ribbon and place those into each of the holes of my tags and just tie those off. You may want to feed those through before you attach all of your tags, but using a skewer, it was pretty easy to get them through there. But I did leave a little extra so I can cut those down a little bit later. So now I'm going to take my frosted greenery, and I really love this greenery, it's so pretty, and I'll just figure out where I want these placed before gluing them down. I wanted them to kind of cascade along the sides of my tags, so I'm placing these before I do my stenciling because I can move my stencil to wherever I want. Another one of the benefits to becoming a Patreon member that I forgot to mention are the fun perky prizes and the drawing giveaways that I'm going to be having. I'm not sure if I'm going to do them monthly or weekly. It'll just depend on how much interest we have. But I have extra finger protectors and those makeup spatulas that everyone asks me about. So I will have the link to those finger protectors in the description box below, but I'm really excited to give away some of these items that are a little harder to come by at the Dollar Tree, including their finger protectors and just all kinds of fun stuff. So also let me know in the comments below what kind of items you would like to see or something that you're having a hard time finding at your local Dollar Tree. So now I'm going to measure each of my tags so that I can make my letters the appropriate size, and we're going to be spelling out the word love. So this time we're going to be stenciling it, and I'm using my Frisco Craft stencil adhesive, and the font I'm using for this is called LiSong Pro, but again I will have that linked in the description box below. And so I'm just going to cut out the word love, and then instead of taking up the outside part of the vinyl, I'm going to leave that in place and then take the letters out. And then I'm going to take some transfer tape and place that on top of my letters and then cut those apart. You could actually cut these apart and only use one piece of transfer tape, but I didn't think of that until afterwards, and so I need to be more conservative with my transfer tape. So after I pull off the backing paper from my letter, I'm going to place that down onto my tag, and then I'm going to squeegee it down, and then I'll pull off the transfer tape, and then using a makeup sponge, I'm going to take my Waverly chalk paint in ink, which is really just black, and then I'm going to get some on that sponge, but I'm going to get most of it off, and then I'm just going to pounce away onto those letters and fill those all in. Then comes my favorite part of pulling that stencil tape up, and this is the medium tack stencil tape, so it comes up really easily and it won't pull up your paint if you do it slow enough, and it still is tacky enough that it doesn't leave any bleeding or anything like that. So this is also going to be linked in my description box below. I get a lot of questions though about whether or not it's reusable, and as you can see, it is a one-time use transfer vinyl. So now I'm going to make a hanger by taking a chenille stem and just folding it in half and twisting it at the bottom, and then I'll use my hot glue to get that in place, and then a scrap piece of ribbon to place over it so that it's not quite so ugly and it gives it a little more stability. And then I'm placing it kind of over to the side so that it will hang the way I want it to. And here it is all finished, and oh, my eyes are so happy looking at this piece. I love how this turned out, and it's so perfect not only for Valentine's Day, but I think this would be stunning at a wedding or a bridal shower. If you can find these roses at your local Dollar Tree, I would snatch some up because they are so pretty. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you did, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, comment, let me know what you think. Again, I want to thank you so much from the bottom of my heart all the way to the tippy top for helping us reach 100,000 subscribers. Gosh, that sounds so weird. Don't forget to check out Sammy's video at Unicorn Dust Designs. I hope everyone has a blessed day, and remember to always be the light. Bye!